Hi there, this is Tim Blair from P&W Beach Combing. It's the website that we have a lot of information, about finding agates or finding sea glass on the beaches up here in the Pacific Northwest. But I thought I would also, we also have an Etsy store. We make a lot of jewelry out of the sea glass. That's P&W Beach Treasures on Etsy. But I thought I would start doing a few videos about how to make some of the jewelry, how to drill some of the sea glass, how to create wire wrappings, and how to actually make some pendants. And so the whole process has been really an enjoyable learning experience for us and our family for the last few years. And so once you've been out on maybe the beaches and if you collected a lot of gems, like at the glass beach that's up at Port Townsend in Washington State, you'll find a lot of different colors of sea glass. And so over the years you may think, what are we going to do? What are we going to do with all of this sea glass? And so that became kind of our own hobby over the last few years of developing different kinds of wire wrappings or earrings or pendants, utilizing the different colors that you find on the beach, whether it's the different sea foams, different kinds of color, the Kelly greens, the regular whites. Even though they're very prevalent out there, you can make some really nice jewelry out of it, and depending on the sizes of it and the earrings or whatever kinds of things you'd like to make, sea foams or even the blues that we find, the cobalt blues, which are very prevalent out there. But it's a great opportunity to find lots of great things. I'd like to show you today some of the things we've done and start drilling some for you. So one of the first things you need to do if you're going to start drilling some of the sea glass to actually make different kinds of jewelry with it, if let's say you're going to be making earrings, you have to look at your pieces that you have. And some of the smaller pieces I found, especially out on Glass Beach, that are very easy to make earrings out of are when you're looking at some of the cobalt blues, is look at the configuration of how the stone of the sea glass piece is found. And if you're wanting to make like a dangle type of earring that would be hanging down, there's a different place, a different way of drilling it. So like this particular piece right here that was drilled, it's drilled at the top. It's drilled at the top of it so that it would hang down and dangle. Or if you're going to be making a piece of an earring that is kind of with a post going through it. So I kind of look at the flat nature of the stone, and I will drill right through the side of it like that as I hold it. And so here's a particular piece that my wife was making, and so this is just a simple hook earring that is hanging down below a little circular figurine like that. And so it depends on how you're wanting to create your earrings or your pendants. How you want them to hang is really the location of where you're going to drill them from. We like to make a lot of dangles, which I call them. They're sort of a pendant that is, we've been selling quite a bit of them on the Etsy store. But so it's you can put a large piece of sea glass at the bottom, or you can drill at the top maybe a piece of a sea pottery like we find out there at Glass Beach, with a combination of different kinds of sea glass. Like the top piece is a cobalt blue with a few pieces of jewelry that, around it, findings and the jump rings and other pieces of jewels around it. And so this creates sort of a collection of a hanging, a pendant that's sort of like a dangle is what we call it. And so this is a really nice way of making a piece of jewelry. But you'll have to drill all your pieces, your pottery and your sea glass pieces, so that they can hang, and you can put your different jewelry pieces and put through the middle of them. And so as we begin to drill, we're going to kind of show you how we hold it and how we do it. There's a lot of different videos you can find on YouTube that show how to drill sea glass. That's been very helpful. I just thought I'd show some of the techniques that I have learned over the last few years of how we do our drilling. That's very helpful for us to make our pieces with. And so it's important to be very patient as you do this and to not get in a hurry. Sea glass is brittle, and especially different types of sea glass. You'll find that especially the cobalt blues, the blues are extremely brittle because you really have a hard time finding larger pieces, especially on Glass Beach in the Port Townsend area, because of the nature of how the chemicals that are put into it to make it cobalt blue in the silica, it makes the glass more brittle. And so you'll find larger pieces of white, larger pieces of the greens, and a few of the larger pieces of the sea foams, but it's really hard to find a larger piece of the cobalt blues. And so these are a little bit easier to drill, even though they're thicker. The cobalt blues, you have to be careful and not press so hard on the drill as you're going through it. And so I recommend being very careful and very deliberate and patient as you try to do it. So we'll show you here in a few moments. Now there's a lot of people I've seen on videos that drill sea glass in which they have a Dremel and they put a diamond-tipped drill bit into it, and they hold the Dremel themselves by hand, and they try to do it. I would highly recommend just getting a drill press, a Dremel drill press like this, so that you can actually control the descent of the drill bit into it, so you can put all your energies into just being very careful with the pressure and also hold the sea glass piece with your hands as you put it into the basin. You always need to put a basin of water, and I've always put a block of wood underneath it so that when the drill bit does go through the sea glass, it won't go penetrating into the plastic little Tupperware bowl I have here. But it's always good to just have something, a block of wood underneath it, and with a little bit of water so that it just barely covers the top of the piece of sea glass when you're going to drill it. And so it's really important that I like having the drill press so I can control what I do, and it's a lot easier. And so we'll go ahead and drill a piece right now, and I'll show you how I do it. But I make sure I have a little bit of water in there, and I drop the drill bit down to the exact location where I want to drill. Make sure it's in a place that's in the middle of, if I'm going to do a drill, a hole that's right in the middle of the piece, and I want it to be, it's a flat piece, that is. I'm very careful. I put the drill bit down on it, slightly push on the actual arm that allows me to push down like this. So I drop it down to the place that I want it, and so I get it lined up. And once I have it lined up and it looks like it's in a good place, then I put the arm up, I turn the drill bit on. I'll see if the sound picks this up, but I'm going to be very careful. I'm going to start drilling, and you can see a little bit of bubbles, a little bit of a light dust that's being emanating from the actual point of the contact with the drill bit. And so you don't want to push very hard. I have a light pressure on the arm, the descending arm of the drill press. And as it goes, I can feel it slowly begin to press down and go through the actual piece of glass. There's a slight dust that's going out into the water. It shows that it's actually making progress and that the drill bit is actually going through the sea glass. Remember, what I'm doing right now, the piece is actually the cobalt blue, so I'm being very careful with the pressure. There it goes. You can feel a slight release in which the drill bit goes through, and there's a release and it plunges, and so you don't want to push too hard after that. And that means you can kind of blow the hole out. And so we have accomplished our first drilling right there. And so it looks really good, nice and clean. It's in a good location. And so that's the first piece we've done. And so that's how you do it, very carefully. And you don't want to get in a hurry. And if you get in a hurry, then you're going to crack some. So that's what I did when I first started off. And you try to push too hard, you're going to force the glass, and you don't want to do that. Then you've ruined a really nice piece of sea glass that you found on the beach, and then you can't do anything with it if it's cracked like that. So be very careful. And I'll put it off to the side. There's some level of vibration when you're drilling, so you have to be careful. So if your pieces that you have drilled begin to move on you, then you want to make sure that they don't fall off the table. But anyway, be very careful. Hold on to it. There's a certain point that you can't drill them anymore. I've done a few small pieces, but there are some pieces here that are just way too small. I couldn't hold that. I could probably, if I worked really hard to get a drill bit through that, it wouldn't leave much around the size of it. And so you really have to pick the pieces you think you can actually make a good drill, and you can actually hold with your hands. And as you're going under the water, you can hold them together. And the drill bit, if the drill bit touches your skin, it's not really going to hurt you. If it's going against your thumbnail or fingernail, it might begin to kind of begin to rub against it, but it's not really going to cause any damage or pain. You can basically see if you're touching your skin a little bit, you can just back off. It's not going to cut you rapidly or anything, and so it's really safe to do that kind of drilling. And so I'm going to stop the video at this point and do a few more. Here's another piece of cobalt blue I'm about to drill, and it's not exactly flat. It has a little bit of a raised, rounded area right in the middle of it, and so when you're going to drill something that's not flat, you have to be very careful. You need to get your drill bit placed exactly where you want it, and then when you begin to actually push down and begin the drilling process, you want to go very slow because you want to get the drill set into the glass. And so if you push too hard, it'll begin to push off the ridge. It'll begin to slide. Your drill bit will maybe move to the left or move to the right off of that rounded hump on the sea glass piece. So you want to be able to kind of begin to just slowly begin to etch away, and you create like a little small divot in the place where you are actually drilling. Once you've got established a good little divot or a little hole where you're beginning, then you can push a little harder and the drill bit will stay on course and it'll begin to go through. So that's a good way of doing it. So I'm going to start it up. Slowly just touch on it a little bit. Beginning to bite that glass a little bit. Okay, I've got a hole established now, so I'm going to go ahead and push a little bit more. You can probably see a little bit of the dust or the debris blowing out into the water. Okay, I felt it release and went all the way through. Let the drill bit come up. There it is. I always blow it out so I can see the hole a little bit better. There it is. You can see it right in there. A nice little hole. Good for doing earrings. It's ready to go. So here's a larger piece of sea glass. It's a sea foam, kind of a light colored, slightly green, and not clearly white. And so what I'm going to do in order to make a pendant with this and have it hang down, I'm going to try to put a little hole at the top of the sea glass so it'll hang down. I can be able to put like a little jump ring. They call them jump rings, the little silver rings at the top, and they'll be able to put lots of other little dangles attached as they go up in the other rings. So I'm going to find a good location at the top, and selecting when you're making jewelry, which do you want to be the top and which do you want to be the bottom. Now, this particular one has kind of a rounded bottom, and you have a little bit of a tip up there, so I'm going to make that the top. I kind of like the larger areas, the larger pieces sometimes, to make that the bottom, and the tips that make that the top. So here's what I'm going to do. I'll go ahead and get it lined up, kind of decide where I want the hole to be, line it up, hold it tightly, come up and start the motor. And down we go. Nice hole, released, went all the way through, turn the motor off. We have a nice little hole at the top, right up there. Nice piece of sea glass ready to go for a piece of, a dangle, a piece of jewelry. So here's a nice piece of Kelly green I'm going to go ahead and make a pendant out of. I'm going to drill. I looked at this and tried to figure out which would be the best place to drill. I thought about drilling it at the top up there, but that seemed to make it a little bit too bulky at the bottom. I thought it's kind of smaller at the tip, so I thought I'm going to go ahead and drill at the top up here in a nice central area up there at the top so that I can put the rings onto it. That'll suspend it from there. So it seemed to be a better location. One of the things you'll need to consider as you're drilling quite a bit, and you can get, with a diamond bit like this, you can typically get, I get about 30 to 40 actual drills out of it, a piece of sea glass. I can do about 30 to 40 pieces of sea glass and a complete hole per drill bit. If you're careful, don't push it too much. It depends on how you do it, how you press on it. You might be able to extend it. I've heard some people say they only get about 7 or 8 or 10, but I typically get, with this particular quality of, that I got. It's about a 1 millimeter drill bit is what it is, with the diamonds on the outer edges of it. So it's a diamond tipped drill bit, 1 millimeter. And so it fits the Dremel, but I go carefully and slowly. So I'm going to go ahead and position this where I want to drill it. I always make sure the block is centered where I want it, right underneath it. Get it in a good location. Not too close to the tip. I don't want it to crack or break. But bring it down, you know, about 5 to 8 millimeters down below the top. I'll show you when I'm finished. I'll kind of get it lined up where I want it. Hold it tightly. Down we go. You can see the little bit of the dust being blown off of it into the water. You have to be careful. After a period of time, the water becomes hazy because of the number of drills you do. So you have to keep in mind of that. If the water's not too deep and it's just the stone is just below the surface, you shouldn't have any problem seeing what you're doing. Just lightly push. Feel it go all the way through. It's like a slight little break. It's just a tiny little, it plunges through when you feel it go all the way through. There we go. Nice hole right up there. Right there, you see it? So that'll be a good location for the ring to hang, the pendant. So you see the water's beginning to get a little bit hazy. And so you just have to keep in mind that, and if it's not too deep and you have it's just below the surface where the sea glass is, then it should be fine for about, I don't know, 15 to 20 pieces before I change the water. So look at this piece. It'll be a nice piece. It's a clear piece, but it'll be a nice pendant with lots of silver little findings, jewelry findings, that I'll have rings and other pieces of pottery and different things attached to it. So I'm looking at it, trying to decide. This looks like that would be the bottom down there. If I did that, it'd be a little bit awkward, kind of be off to the side. It'd be hanging. So I'm going to go ahead and make this the top up here, and I'll drill that and get it lined up in the correct location. Okay, it's lined up. One more drill. One more time. There we go. It's almost there. Just a little bit more. It's going really fast. This is a brand new drill bit. There it goes. It took a few seconds. As they get worn after a period of time, they may take 2 or 3 minutes, just being careful. And so you don't push it. You can kind of tell if it's cutting, if it's plunging into the glass. So you just have to be careful and make sure you're not pressing it too much. But just be careful with it and be patient. And so after it's worn down after a period of time and you can tell it's getting old, it's a good time after 30 or 40 pieces you've cut to go ahead and put a new drill bit on there. Okay, hope this has been helpful for you, and have fun making your own sea glass jewelry. Here's one more tip that I've learned over a period of time working with some of these stones or sea glass that's really difficult to drill, that you actually can make better progress in drilling, especially if the tops of your sea glass are not flat but they're kind of rounded, and so it's really difficult for the drill bit to bite and to begin drilling in the very beginning because it's rounded. Therefore, I found it really does a lot. It grips and it bites better, the drill bit does, when you have your RPMs as low as possible on your Dremel. So just one click in, maybe a second click is all you need to do, and it doesn't rev it up as much, but it actually allows for the drill bit to it bites more. You'll see the cloud, the little dust underneath the water as your sea glass piece is down underneath the water, but you can see that the progress is being made even at the lower RPMs. because the drill bit, the little pieces of diamond bits are gripping more and they're biting more at the lower RPM level. And so this is pouring through, the little clouds are flowing out from the drill spot, the drill point, in the little piece I'm working right now. It's a seafoam piece. It'll just take a few more seconds and it'll go right through. Even though you'll notice that the RPMs are a lot lower, it's something to consider. There you go, just a few seconds. Took maybe 20 seconds or 25 seconds to drill through that, but a nice piece, a nice drill. Boring was done at that point. So it's something to consider. Try your RPMs on your Dremel at a lot lower point, maybe just 1 click or maybe 2 clicks in the beginning phases of the speed adjustment, and you'll find you'll do a lot better with your drilling.